Hello, everyone, and welcome back to CBJ Sports, Episode 5. Today we have Chris Phillips from the Spurs Up Show to talk Gamecock football. Me and Billy are going to ask him some questions, and we're just going to look into the future of South Carolina football and also SEC football as a whole. The first question for you, Chris, is do you feel Luke Doty can be a serious quarterback in the SEC and help lead this team for Shane Beamer?
Well, first things first, guys, I appreciate you having me on. Answer your question, though, absolutely. Really like Luke Doty's ability, obviously being a dual threat guy, and especially in Shane Beamer's offense. Marcus Satterfield. I've heard plenty of great things about him. Obviously when they talk about kind of what the offensive game plan is and what the identity is going to look like, I think you hear a lot of NFL talk, a lot of Oklahoma, of course. But I think certainly it's going to be a much more up-tempo, spread offense, if you will. And I think Luke Doty fits that beautifully. Obviously one of the talks of spring camp this spring has been the quarterback battle with Jason Brown coming in from St. Francis and, talking about him competing for the job. But it really sounds like, guys, that Luke Doty has really taken over as QB1 and sort of the leader in that room. So I think absolutely, how big of a big-time player can he be? That's yet to be seen. But certainly I think, you saw in limited action last year, he has the skill set to give this South Carolina football team a chance to win, because I just really think, in college football now, you need a quarterback that's mobile. You need a guy that can get outside the pocket and make plays with speed. Not necessarily, a guy who's a run-first quarterback, if you will, but you need a guy who can make plays with speed, especially if you're a school like South Carolina where, it's not Alabama. You're not going to have 5 stars in your position. You're not going to have 5-star O-linemen and 5-star running backs and 5-star wide receivers, have those guys going 2 or 3 deep. You got to have a guy behind center that can make plays for you. And I definitely think, Luke Doty with his skill set, like I said, we saw it a little bit last year, but I think fans were honestly a little too quick to judge him. People kind of had questions about his throwing ability and everything, and of course, with South Carolina season, the way it sort of fell apart at the end of last year, you know what I mean? I don't think it's fair to assess him or any part of this football team coming back this year from, what happened in the last season. But I think overall, yeah, to answer your question, absolutely. I like Luke Doty's game a lot. Again, I love his dual threat ability, and I certainly think he can be the guy South Carolina football needs moving forward in this season in Shane Beamer's first year.
Yeah, I think Luke Doty's sophomore steps are going to be big in the continuation and the start of the Shane Beamer era. Speaking of young guys, the defensive line has had some really good talent and recruits over the years with Will Muschamp there. Where do you think Jordan Birch, Alex Huntley, Rick Sandage, guys like that, where do you think they're going to be? How much impact is that young defensive line going to have on this team?
Yeah, and all coaches can do is rave about that front seven. Shane Beamer, the team actually scrimmaged yesterday on Saturday. He talked about the front seven and how tough it is for him to get a pass off. Those guys are called havoc. First things first, I think Jordan Birch is going to absolutely blow up this year. I think, a guy, one of the reasons the old staff isn't here anymore is, I think one of the reasons certainly is it felt like, at least in a fan perspective, guys like that maybe weren't developed like they should have been or weren't utilized as much. You saw Jordan Birch a little bit here and there, but the type of player that he is, the type of prospect that he was, he should have a major impact with defense. Like you mentioned, you talk about guys like J.J. Nabare, Brad Johnson, Thompson Hemingway. I think a really, really nice piece on the inside. He had a really good freshman season for South Carolina last year. You look at Boogie Muncie, like you mentioned, Rick Sanders. And the thing is, there are a lot of question marks on this team for Shane Beamer's first season, certainly, and especially on the defensive side, I think in the back half. That front seven should be to be able to keep South Carolina a lot of ball games. It's going to come down to can you get pressure on the quarterback, because you don't feel like, at least right now, with all you lost in the secondary, if you go up against a team that can really throw the football like we saw Gamecock face Ole Miss last year, if you're giving a quarterback 4 to 5 seconds to throw, you basically have no chance. So I think they're going to lean on that front seven, lean on that defensive line heavily, but you certainly, including, like I said, J.J. Nabare, who comes back, who I think led the SEC in sacks a year ago. So you've got some big-time legit pass rushers, and I will say the last staff, they recruited pretty well in that position. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch. I'm really excited to see Clayton White, what they do with that defensive front, how they're using those guys up. But hey, Zach Pickens, I didn't even mention, got to go under the radar for 5-star prospect. He's another one. that I think have take a huge step this year to have a breakout season. So you've got guys on guys, you've got depth there. And I think definitely when you look across this football team as a whole, I mean, offensive, defensively, and special teams, I think the defensive line unit, that's probably your best position group on this football team right now.
I think Zach Pickens has got I forgot JJ Nabari. I think that's going to be the bright spot of this defense with Clayton White coming in. My last question before I pass it over to Billy is, over the last few years, when Jake Billy was there, he had the number one guy receiver. I mean, Deebo Samuel, Shi Smith, Brian Edwards. Who's that guy, if not Dak Joyner, who's going to step up and be the number one guy there this year?
Well, that's the $1 million question, man. I don't know if anybody right now really knows. You know, obviously Justin Stepp, really highly regarded coach, was brought in from Arkansas to do a job and flip that wide receiver room. And certainly that's a major question mark. I mean, you lose Shi Smith, and really he was the bulk of your production last year. And you hit the transfer portal. A guy that I'm really excited about, that I think is going to be an absolute stud, is Marion Brown, the kid that picked up Georgia Tech. I don't know if you guys have seen any of his film, but he tore it up with the Jackets last year. And we're not talking about, you know, obviously it was an all-conference schedule, but this guy was scoring touchdowns against Clemson. Like, he was a big-time player for them. I think he tied the freshman record for touchdowns with Calvin Johnson from Georgia Tech. So not bad company there. But from there, man, you take a look at the bunch of guys who I think have talent, have ability, and for whatever reason it hasn't worked out. You know, a guy like Fortrey Smith, you talk to the Gamecock fan, that's a name that certainly comes up. You know, can he just finally stay healthy? A guy that showed flashes in his freshman season, big body, 6'4", you know, has all the ability in the world, but he just has not been able to stay healthy and stay on the field. I take a look at a guy like a Jason Legette, who I thought was going to break out last year, had a very pedestrian season. I think he's got talent, can do anything. Josh Mann, another guy, 4-star prospect out of the state of Georgia that really hasn't lived up to the building, and I've been really surprised about it. Coming out of high school, he was a big-time playmaker. Guy was making circus catches. You're thinking to yourself, okay, you know, here we go. This guy can be something big, and he really has done it there. You look at Carry on Warner, you look at Chad Terrell. You know, and there's a host of others. It's just a bunch of guys right now. Like you said, it's about finding the dude. Who's your number one guy? Who's going to be your go-to target? Or, hey, does it come from the tight end? Does it come from a guy like Nick Hughes, Bell, who I'm really excited about, or Stevo Williams? You know what I mean? So I think definitely in the spring and summer and going into fall, you know, that's the biggest question offensively. I feel pretty solid about what Luke Doty can give you. Obviously, the running back room speaks for itself, but who's going to catch it? You know what I mean? I thought that was a huge pump for the team last year. For whatever reason, the wide receiver room in South Carolina did not develop, and I don't know if it was recruiting, I don't know if it was player development, but you know, you went into last year saying, oh my goodness, all we have is Shi Smith, and then who else? Again, you got a bunch of guys that I think were pretty highly touted, pretty highly regarded on the recruiting trail for whatever reason. You know, it just hasn't panned out. So hey, that's why you got a new staff. That's why you have Justin Stepp. He's one of the best in the business, and I think definitely that's going to be the question. They're looking to solve all offseason. Who are our dudes out here on the outside that Luke Doty can depend on when they take the field? So.
I think as a Sacramento fan, the question was why is Mike Wyman on the field? Rico Powers got limited snaps. I think the young guys deserved a little bit more opportunity.
Your Corey Caldwell as well. Yeah, I totally forgot about those young guys. Like I said, you got a ton of guys. It's not for lack of options. And I like Powers a lot. You know, 6'4". Corey Caldwell 6'4". Mike Wyman, I think, is like 6'2". Like, you've got plenty of options for whatever reason. You know, whether it be injuries or whether it just be like the player development. I mean, you know, not to speak more than the last staff. Just think about it, man. I mean, the way you upgraded your wide receiver coach. I mean, your last wide receiver coach is Joe Top. I mean, with all due respect, what does Joe Top know about playing wide receiver? I can't imagine what. So, I mean, I think without a doubt, nobody would argue that Justin Stepp was such a huge upgrade. He was able to do a lot of good things with Arkansas, you know, in their wide receivers. And I think certainly again, everybody I've talked to on Gamecock football raved about Marcus Satterfield as an offensive genius. So I think overall, I think you're going to see, you know, more production out of that position. You can only hope. But I think it's a great question you bring up, though. Is like, I think there are a lot of guys, like I said, that can contribute. But is there going to be one guy that emerges as like the go-to guy? Because South Carolina is funny, man. You know, the Gamecocks, they don't have great football history tradition thing. Nobody's going to debate that. But South Carolina's always had good wide receivers. For whatever reason, the Gamecocks have just always had a big-time wideout. And this is the first time I can remember in quite a while going into a season where you're like, I don't have any clue who that guy is. So like I said, that's going to be the question they're all looking to solve. And, of course, we got the spring game coming up this Saturday. And I'm not a guy that puts, a ton of stock in a spring game. Most of the time, you guys probably know there's a guy that stands out, but he don't even play a snap. You know what I mean? That fall. So, I don't put a ton of stock into it, but it will be interesting to see some of these new guys and some of these young guys is there anybody that stands out that kind of takes the reins, builds some momentum going into the offseason and say, hey, maybe that's the guy to watch. So like I said, that's the reason Justin Stepp was hired, man, is to try to get the most out of these guys. Because I think, just like the rest of this roster, it's not Alabama, it's not Clemson, it's not some five-star studded roster. There's talent on this roster. There's talented players in the wide receiver room. It's just all about can you get the most out of them.
Yeah, I think the wide receiver core is going to be a big question mark. I'm going to pass it on to Billy for one more question.
Hey Chris, this is Billy.
A big part of
Beamer's first offseason
kind of came in at an awkward time was the transfer portal. So I guess my question for you is what transfer do you think can come in and have the biggest immediate impact on this football team?
Yeah, I thought about Mario Brown a lot around our wide receiver. I was like, they got bigger guys out here that probably got the biggest impact on the jump is Stevo Williams, the linebacker. They seem to really, really like him. Of course, on that defense, you lost so much, especially in secondary. I think Michael Strawn is the guy that actually, I think, led the NCAA in sacks last year. But I think Stevo Williams is really the guy, like I said. I think will probably have the biggest impact. Somebody who is a headhunter. He went on record a couple of times this spring saying how much he loves to hit. He kind of brings that nastiness and that tenacity back to the Gamecock defense. You saw a guy, maybe like a DJ Swearinger bring, at least that's the way he talks. So, been hearing great things about him all spring. But like I said, I just continue to look at Amari Brown. E.J. Jenkins, another one on that offensive side, came in with Jason Brown from St. Francis. 6'7.5". I mean, the dude's an absolute monster. He's playing some tight end. He's playing wide out. He's playing like an H-back. He's playing like that hybrid position. So, you'd hope that a guy like that could help you out offensively. But like I said, I just keep coming back to, it's the great thing about the transfer portal and getting grad transfers is this. When you sign a big-time player out of high school, it's great, right? We all love to get those 4 or 5-star guys, but still, there's a question of, okay, you got to adjust to this league, you got to prove it on this level, yada, yada, yada. You get a grad transfer, a guy like Amari Brown, he's done it at the Power 5 level. He did it at Georgia Tech last year. He was a big-time playmaker, but I know he's a guy that hasn't been quite getting talked about as much this spring. I think he's been battling a little bit of an injury or something like that. But either way, I really, when I, going back to the question about the wide receivers, when I look at that room, I'm like, I think this guy could be the number one guy. You go watch the film from Tech, it reminds you a lot of Shy Smith. He's a speedster. He's a slot guy. Can make plays. He's a big-time player. He's a playmaker. So, I think him, like I said, I think E.J. Jenkins on the offensive side going to play a little bit of tight end and receiver. But Stevo Williams, I think, is probably going to be the guy you're going to look at on the defensive side, who is probably going to be the leader of the defense. And as long as he can back up the talk he's putting out there, which I think, again, from all accounts, everything we're hearing, he's having a great spring, and he is sort of being that guy. He's been that guy that just came into the weight room and kind of, like I said, just took over. Because you lose Ernest Jones from that defense, who I've said many times was the heartbeat of that defense. He was the heart and soul of that defense. Even with guys like J.C. Horn and Izzy McQuamu and all these big-time flashy guys, Ernest Jones was South Carolina football defensively last year. So, can Stevo Williams be the guy? That's going to be the question. But I think he's probably the guy that's leading the pack right now out of that really impressive group of transfers.
I agree.
That was
for me too. That's
the one I'm most excited to see on the football field.
Thank you, Chris.
I'm going to hand it back to Blake.
Everyone, that was Chris Phillips. So we thank you. And also, everyone listening, you can follow him on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, everywhere pretty much, YouTube, the website, the Spurs Up Show. I think you really changed college media for me, at least in South Carolina, as a fan perspective, and the following you've gained. Even the Will Muschamp era, you had a big favor in changing the mindset of a lot of Gamecock fans. And I just appreciate you, and thank you for coming on the podcast today.
Yeah, guys, I appreciate the opportunity anytime.
Bet. See you next time. Everyone, that was
Chris Phillips. Philly, I think for me, he covered a lot of
key points that we've
talked about.
And the transfer situation with Jordan Strachan,
Stevo Williams, Amarian Brown
from Georgia Tech. I think every guy that he listed, it just shows you even like Josh Steele
as Clemson fans.
Saccone
has a lot of talent that we just like.
That isn't
utilized with Will Muschamp.
But there's so much talent
that you have no excuse to win 5 football games in a season.
Like there's none. I think
Shane Beamer is that guy to come in. He's already changed the culture.
We have a bee flying around and just set that tone. I think Chris covered a lot of big points and just the outlook on
Saccone football is bright. I think. I think we can all agree, even as Clemson fans.
Yeah.
I hope so.
Do you have any notes of what he said?
We'll see. I agree with him with that. The defensive front seven. It was a solid last year. It's going to be solid again this year.
Anything?
I just think it starts with a quarterback.
Yeah, I think
Luke Doty is really controls everything in that offense. And Saccone hasn't really had a running quarterback in a while. I think it's a change of pace to have Luke Doty. But as I said, you can tune in to the Spurs Up Show pretty much everywhere on social media. He's a great guy.
Big South
Carolina fan. Almost reminds you of a student if you see him on Instagram or TikTok. I'm sorry for the way I'm talking right now because I'm really stuffed up and allergies are hitting me hard.
Yeah, sinuses are.
But I didn't mention
before the interview that you can find us on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, everywhere. Go follow us, show us love. We hit 100 downloads last week.
That takes us
into our next topic in college football.
An SEC dark horse
for the playoffs.
And the first team
that popped in my mind was Missouri. I think
it showed me a lot
last year when they played South Carolina that this team's not just your average SEC East team. Connor Bazelak is for real. He's a Matty Mock type guy when Missouri was ranked 4th in the country that no one talked about because no one knew who Matty Mock was. Connor Bazelak's that guy. He can make every throw on the field. They lost Larry Roundtree, but they've really recruited lately. They lost D lineman to the transfer portal.
But that wide receiving core
is all 6'4" plus. That's what you need in the SEC to be able to go against Florida, Georgia. I think if there's an underdog that has the quarterback to win, I think it's Missouri.
I think Missouri's a good one. I got LSU as my dark horse. They made a lot of coaching changes going back to the Joe Brady offense, and they got Max Johnson who took a couple reps. Led him to 2 wins late last season. He's been taking reps as first team, so I think they're going to be the dark horse.
I mean, you took it from me, Missouri. I mean, head coach Drinkwitz. I mean, he's done nothing but show me he's getting to be a better and better head coach every year. He's an offensive mastermind, which fits in perfectly with that Big 12 style offense in the SEC, and it's just a matter of can that defense step up, because we know they can score points with just about anybody in the country.
I had LSU. I think Coach O gets them going in the right direction. If not this year, in the next couple of years, I think they'll get in there sometime.
I think
pretty much went
2-2 there, 2 LSU, 2 Missouri. So those are obviously 2 teams that have the talent. I think LSU is more set than Missouri with the talent because the national championship brought a lot of 5-star guys that were just young last year. But guys like Derek Stingley who are going to be lottery picks in the NFL. I think LSU's really just finding that quarterback, replacing Joe Burrow to get him back in the SEC West picture. And I think I don't know if they're going to have it this year, but I think they're set everywhere else on the football field.
Staying in the SEC.
Bo Nix.
That's a big question mark for the SEC fans. I think SEC football fans, all college football fans, when they watch Auburn, it's Bo Nix is kind of the key to make that team move. Because they have Tank Bigsby at running back, as Josh mentioned last week. They had one of the best years in the SEC. But what's his ceiling? Is it higher or lower than we think? In my initial
reaction, just feelings, everything was lower. Just don't think he's a great quarterback. He makes dumb decisions in big times. Against South Carolina, South Carolina's not supposed to be Auburn. Last year with that defense, even with Jason Horn, Ezra McQuami, Bo Nix put South Carolina back in that football game, throwing picks at J.C. Horn. He had a really good game that day, but he looked to Seth Williams a lot all year long. And
to me, I don't think he's an NFL guy.
No.
That's
it. No, I mean, for a guy that was regarded the way he was coming out of high school, it's nothing against Bo Nix. I'm sure he's a great person. But there's just no way you can sit here and tell me that there are 30 other quarterbacks that are worse than Bo Nix. So there's just
I see Bo Nix as we were talking about last week on the podcast. Dak Prescott over Tom Brady. I feel like if there was to be one, it'd be Bo Nix. I feel like he could get drafted late and then just sit behind a quarterback and starter for a while, come in and then maybe do something in the NFL. I think it seems it's not low, but I don't think he's great. I think
if he looks like a quarterback.
I think if he just gets rid of the decision making, like Josh said, he can just sit behind a quarterback for a couple years. I mean, I think it'd be all right.
I've seen him.
I've watched a couple. He can make plays. He really can. But
he's a remake.
You're not gonna see Bo Nix like we're talking NFL go out there and throw for 400 to 500 yards. I see him sitting in like a Tennessee type offense. Tannehill's behind Derrick Henry pretty much.
Just play action.
He's there when they need him.
Yeah, I also can see that. And Bo Nix is
the only person that's going to be able to show us what he's moving on to the NFL, talking more college quarterbacks. Who has the better career, Mac Jones, Trey Lance? To me, I think Mac Jones is way better talent-wise, being able to throw the football. But with him, it's just system. If he gets put in the right system, the right scenario happens, Mac Jones could be a franchise guy. Got the IQ. He's got the arm talent. Trey Lance isn't there yet with the arm talent. He's not there yet with the IQ. But also with Trey Lance, if he gets put in a team where the quarterback can take off a little bit, he can throw an 80-yard down the field, and he gets better as a passer. But I think Mac Jones is the most ready right now.
We can see what Mac Jones can do if you give him an O-line and weapons. Proved it. He already proved it. But yeah, I have Mac Jones.
I have Trey Lance. Just because I think Mac Jones, like you said, would be perfect, like a system. Throw him in a system. Somewhere like maybe like New England right now. Throw him in there, he might pop off. Just a system quarterback. But I think going back to like the last question, high ceiling. I think Trey Lance has a higher ceiling than Mac Jones with that arm talent. Be able to run a little more than Mac Jones.
See, I actually thought the opposite of you, kind of. I think. Mac Jones is better right now. Of course, Trey Lance is the higher ceiling. But I was sitting there looking at teams that need Trey Lance, just looking over, and I saw a mock draft where they had the Patriots trading up for Trey Lance, and I was sitting there, just trying to figure it out why, and I'm like, Cam Newton and Trey Lance are a lot alike.
Patriots are on that little run.
So if they want to go and get somebody that can sit behind Cam for a year or two, someone that can really learn from Cam,
from a guy like
been there.
That 6'4", 230 frame, mobile. Does it all. But yeah, I mean, to answer the question, I'm gonna say Trey Lance just for the fact that I think he can put in the right team, and he can absolutely be.
When I said like Mac Jones, the Patriots, I was talking like talent. Right now they're in totally which they were.
I think Mac Jones will be a top. He'll be that guy like that. Nobody plays good, but nobody hears about him, like Kirk Cousins, like Matthew Stafford. That's what I think that Mac Jones.
Yeah, I think
those are both really good quarterbacks. I think in the right system, both of them will flourish. But moving on to college, guys, as we're staying pretty much in the college realm, is Urban Meyer really going to be able to take that next step to the NFL? He's been away from the college game a little bit. He's never been an NFL coach. I think.
He's sure getting everything.
I think that's a big point. He will succeed, but I don't think him being a good coach. He's only reason he came there is he knew they were going to get Trevor Lawrence. Really the big thing. He wanted to coach Trevor Lawrence. I think. I don't know. I want to agree with what you said. He's just being put in a situation in football games. But a coach has to be ready to be in the NFL, and the coach wins football games.
Yeah, no, exactly. I think like I said,
it's such a hard.
It's hard for a college coach who's coached forever come to the NFL and just be there already. I think he set up for Trevor Lawrence. He had the best team, but transferring over it takes time.
I think in a couple years he'll be a really good NFL coach.
I'm not asking him to win 10 or 11 games. If he can go in that first year and win 7-8 games,
if Jacksonville gives them 4 or 5, 6 years,
I think the next decade for Jacksonville is not based on Urban Meyer. It's more based on.
But I guess then again, we say that give him time. Look at all the prior college coaches that got time.
And then they're out. Jones comes in and he gets hurt year 1. Fire Meyer year 2.
Yeah, Gardner Minshew, baby.
He does love Gardner.
Look at Nick Saban though. I mean, he was in the NFL for
a year and a half.
I was like, I'm out. Steve Spurrier, another one. I mean,
that's different. Steve Spurrier was born.
He was shadowed by Bill Belichick in Cleveland.
That's facts. Moving on. A topic close to my heart. Luke Kuechly. Is he a Hall of Fame guy after retirement? He'll be up for voting. I don't know how many years later. But to me, the first thing to carry on the line was the injuries, the concussions. Longevity is what makes you a Hall of Famer. The career has to be long enough to be in the Hall of Fame. And I think Luke Kuechly, he had the season stats, he has the awards to match up with any other linebacker that went to the Hall of Fame in a season, but not the stats career-wise. I think if he's not, it's by an eyelash, but it's based off of he was hurt a lot. It's based off his he retired early. It's based off he just didn't have that many good years. I think anyone will ask. He's the linebacker of a decade for me. He changed the position. He's an actual quarterback of the defense. And I think if he's not in, he's just off the road.
I mean, in terms of middle linebackers, him and Bobby Wagner were really
the two of the decade.
And then after that, it kind of just dipped. But it's hard.
I think it's super close.
I think that's what's like you said. What's going to really help him to get in the Hall of Fame. Like you said, he was the linebacker. I think you put him over.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Which I guess.
Like, oh, go ahead.
You talk about short careers, and it's like,
yeah.
Does Calvin Johnson deserve to be in the Hall of Fame? And I mean, most people are going to say yes. And it's just that. It's that hard topic.
See, that's why. The first thing we went to look at was tackles. And where he ranked. I think
690 solo tackles and combined.
The first name that I saw that was above him was Thomas Davis. Longer career, better stats, played with him. Thomas Davis is a clear-cut longevity Hall of Fame guy at linebacker. But when you see him in both almost Tom Davis a little bit out of it. Luke Kuechly is such a better linebacker in Carolina when you watch him. But he might not make the Hall of Fame just because he got hurt and his career ended.
Yeah, I think the injuries are gonna hurt him if he don't. I think that would be the reason why.
Just
a shortened career.
I think that's what I sat there and looked at. I was like, yeah, his stats don't match up.
I guess it just at the end of the day, I guess it just comes down to who's in that class.
That's what I was thinking too. Like it's gonna be like it's gonna have to be a year where there's not like a lot of record breakers who is in their 5th year where they can.
I think if the year time's up, I think Luke Kuechly can get in. Like you said, I think that's the only way he gets in.
Timing's gonna have to be perfect.
Yeah. But to me, of course, that was close to my heart. I think Luke Kuechly is a Hall of Famer instantly, but I had to come with the knowledge of knowing you have to have the career to get in. As we move on to, it's early, but we're going to pick our winners from each division and go down the board. We're not going to give a lot of discussion on each one unless someone just brings some. Says the Jets or something, and they have to get flamed real fast. But I'll start, and we'll just go around the board. AFC North, I went with the Browns. I think Baker's ready. I think the Steelers are a little down. I think it's their year.
I'm going to go Baltimore. I think it's be close. I think it's be within a game of each other.
I got Cleveland.
I got Steelers.
They're take Big Ben right back to the top, baby.
That defense is so good.
Yeah, I think the defense is good. I think
That's what pushes. That's what made them last year.
They lost Bud.
Yeah, I think
the Ravens and Browns are on their way up.
PJ Watt.
I think it's gonna be close. I think those two teams are gonna be a game and a half.
No, it definitely, yeah.
Moving on to the AFC East, I think it's a little easier. The Dolphins are coming, but I think it's the Bills' division to lose. I really don't want to ask.
Absolutely refuse to answer the question.
It's
Circle
Buffalo.
the wagon, baby.
I think Buffalo, as a team to win it, they're a Super Bowl contender. If they don't win it, I think it's the Dolphins.
Yeah, and I think the only thing with the Dolphins is that one question mark. Tua.
Yeah, I think that's a big
decision
coster. I think if you wanted to take the Dolphins to win the division. The AFC South, I took the Colts. I think Carson Wentz is ready. I think the run game is ready to go. I think the defense is really, really good.
I got Tennessee. I just love Derrick Henry. Love Ryan Tannehill. I think that team controls the clock, plays defense, and
I think Colts are gonna have a great year. I'm not gonna take that away. I'm not gonna take that away.
I hope Carson
But I think Derrick Henry's just come out and have another 2,000-yard year again, and that's gonna be the team to beat.
I got the Colts. Defense is good. Offense is good. Carson Wentz coming in.
I think when I look at both the teams, I took Indianapolis off defense. I think their defense is a little bit better than Tennessee's. I think they can win big games. I think they're just a little bit better. Quarterback wise now, maybe not running back, but the team overall.
That's why I take Tennessee over Colts. You still don't know. I want to see Carson Wentz do good.
I'm the same way.
I didn't even see they're betting on the over for Carson Wentz.
I love Carson.
The AFC West, I think we can go around the table. Chiefs.
Did you take
someone else over the Chiefs?
Las Vegas, Chiefs.
I really wanted to put Derek Carr on there. I was like, dude, maybe Derek Carr pulls it off. I was like, no one's stopping the Chiefs.
I'm talking Chargers.
They
had a decent year though. How many of their games did they lose by a touchdown?
I could take the Panthers, beat the Bucks, but
I'm not just gonna leave the Chargers out. Herbert had a great year.
I think
that'd be second.
the only thing holding the Raiders back from being actual competitors in that division is John Gruden.
He needs to go back to early 2000s.
Moving on to the NFC. I think the NFC, I'll mix that one up. NFC East, I'm going to start off with the North. I went with Washington. I think the defense is really good. I think Taylor Heineke takes him over the top. He's ready to be an NFL quarterback. I think Washington, whatever their name's going to be, I think they'll win the division this year.
I got
Washington Wizards.
I got the Cowboys. I think they'll get their lockdown corner in the draft. Dak's coming back. We've already seen what that offense can do.
Out of super bias and absolute Dallas Cowboy hatred, I'm going Washington because I like Taylor
Ready.
I think that team's good. That team's really young and really good. It's just a matter of that QB1. Do they? It's about the same question for about half the teams in the league. It feels like.
Oh, for sure.
Can QB1 play?
I think Washington's definitely gonna have a good team. But I'm gonna go Giants.
I think Giants
had like
Putting money on Daniel Jones and winning that football games.
I think this is
I mean, let's be honest. That
top 5 defense.
the division winner last year had 8 wins.
I think the
winner this year has at least 10.
That division is always is just.
I think the winner
this year takes it over halfway through the year and wins like 10, 11 games. Like they don't lose a division game.
I just hope love Dak, but I hope Dallas goes 1-15.
I think Zeke's too old.
I don't think it's even on Zeke. I think they really got to rebuild that one.
Yeah. Wide receiver core getting a little old. I think the team's getting old. Besides Dak Prescott, they gave him all their money pretty much. So it's like, how can you pay the rest of the team? But the defense. At every other position, the team's getting a little old. I think that's why I check Washington.
You guys, I think it's Jerry Jones. I think you guys.
He's getting old.
Anything happens in Dallas.
Play place to own it. NFC North. I think this is going to be my biggest controversy with all of you. I went with the Vikings. I think Kirk Cousins is still set to win football games. Dalvin Cook's one of the best backs in the NFL. The defense is really good. That defense is a lot better than a lot of people realize. Get back in here now. Kirk Cousins is going to win football games this year. I'm putting money on the Vikings.
Aaron Rodgers is still in the division.
Let's just go against the MVP.
Yeah. You can't go against Green Bay in that one.
Actually, yeah, you're right. I got Detroit.
It's almost like every other year. It's like someone in that division is good against.
Didn't Minnesota start out like 2-8?
Last year, yes, I know. But the year before, the Vikings are a playoff team and they're almost winning the division. The Packers won
They
what?
almost had 50 points.
The way I feel about this division is you have the Packers.
And then
you have three teams that can't figure out if they want to go.
in there, but I don't think you're choosing anyone over. You can talk about Vikings. But I don't think
You have the Packers, and then you have three teams that don't know if they want to win or rebuild. Every single freaking
But
year.
that's exactly. Each one of those teams can win. Besides the Lions, I think. Like any other team can win 9.
Oh, dude, they're going to take 10 kneecaps, 10 wins, baby.
Packers are they're getting.
let's not
Let's
forget about
the
Andy
Vikings are
Dalton.
going to win by 40. Oh yeah, like half a game.
Let's not forget about Andy Dalton.
Okay. Okay, I'll give you the Packers.
In all honesty, real quick side note, I would love to see Jared Goff just go into Detroit and actually be
There's zero shot. Dan Campbell figures out how to win football games in Detroit. It's just
I know it won't happen.
It's going to take a
Let's be fair though. If Carson Wentz can show out over there, because I mean the one thing that Detroit's had pretty good of, even though they lost him this past offseason.
See Carson Wentz.
I'm saying if Carson Wentz can go over to Indianapolis,
That's a whole different situation. Indy's built to be a playoff team. They just need a quarterback. Detroit has no wide receivers anymore. The defense is super young.
TJ Hawkinson about to have 2,000 receivers.
TJ Hawkinson might be the most talented player on the entire football team. DeAndre Swift fumbled 15 times this year.
Dropped the game-winning touchdown.
There's no bright spots in that organization right now besides Hawkins at tight end. There's no Billy. You're not winning that.
Oh, I know.
Let's move on.
The NFC South. As much as I want to take the Panthers, because I think they're a quarterback away from being a good team. I think the Bucs win it. I don't think they win a lot of games. I think they win 10 a lot of games like they did last year. But the Bucs are built to win the Super Bowl. They have to win the division.
Yeah, I got the Bucs. There's really.
I want to be weird.
I'm going Atlanta.
Atlanta.
I got
Okay,
Atlanta.
that's not as weird as I was thinking.
I got Atlanta. Just because, like,
Every team in that division
every team in that
division
last
could
year.
win.
But I don't know about Saints. They still have you
Oh, yeah, I was going to go with New Orleans. They got the defense to compete. They have the offensive
I
weapon.
think the division is set to win 10 games.
Yeah, if
they don't start James Winston,
I know James but I think Atlanta.
Everyone has talent.
Yeah.
When Drew Brees, that last game he played, there was like 2 minutes left in the game, and he goes up to Jameis, and you can read his lips. He said, "This is your team now."
I think this is the most competitive division. 4 teams that can beat
That is the
playoff.
AFC East. I mean,
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I was AFC East
I
is
was
the only
yeah,
team I was
AFC
thinking
East is the only
of,
team I
or
was
division.
thinking
But
The Jets.
And then, there's the Panthers. I mean,
Oh yeah, we had Sam Darnold lost 8 games by less than 5 points. 2,000-yard receivers. I don't think the Jets had a 500-yard receiver.
they did actually.
what's his name?
Crowder?
Yeah, Crowder has him.
Rashad Perryman.
But I think.
Oh, he's talking about Barrios.
Stop talking.
It's 7-6.
The NFC West. I think I'm big on Matthew Stafford this year. I think the Rams have the defense to win the division. I think it's the Rams by a couple games.
I think honestly, this is a division that not many people are looking at right now that could really be.
It's competitive also.
Like, I would love to see the Cardinals go in
A
there and
Super
take
Bowl
it.
team could come out of that division.
I would love to see the Cardinals go in there and take them. I'm gonna go Seattle. I just like Seattle's.
I love Seattle, but I don't think I take Seattle.
I think the Rams defense is just too much.
You got Rams, who
You got
now
Rams
has Matthew
who
Stafford.
now has
It's
Matthew
almost
Stafford.
hard to bet against.
It's almost hard to bet against.
San Francisco is one quarterback
San
away from
Francisco's
winning a
one
Super
quarterback
Bowl.
away from winning a Super
And then
Bowl.
Cal Murray is just a big question mark for Cardinals. So that
I don't
division,
think he's as much of a question mark as
it's not as
the
big as
other
a
guys we
question mark.
talked about.
Man, I might take back.
He's good. Like, we know he's good. He's a baller.
I might take back the most competitive conference now that I'm thinking about it.
Our next segment is in the MLB, and it's top 3 second basemen in baseball. I think for me, we're going to start at 1. We're going to go around the board. For me, 1 is Jose Altuve. I think he's the most consistent. Even if he cheated, I think he can hit tanks. He's a great defender. I think he has to be 1.
I got Whit Merrifield at 1. He's batting, it's like a 340 right now. I like Whit Merrifield.
Who'd you have at 1?
Jose Altuve.
I got DJ LeMahieu at 1.
Oh, biasy. That's crazy.
No, I got DJ LeMahieu.
He leads the league in hitting every year.
Yeah, you're biased for.
I think he's been, year in and year out, he's been the most
He's not
consistent.
much after this, but it's out of there.
He averages like 330.
Number 2, I went with Josh as well. I went with Merrifield. He's hit a lot of home runs this year. He's very consistent. He's helping Benintendi on the Royals team. I think Whit Merrifield has to be 2.
I didn't really put Whit Merrifield on this list just for the simple fact that.
We put DJ LeMahieu.
Well, no, listen. The only reason I didn't put Whit is because he's not a pure second baseman. He's played shortstop. He plays right half the year. He plays center for a third of the year.
Right now he's second.
Well, yeah, but for
His
how many
primary
games?
position second.
For right now, but last year it wasn't. Last year was right field.
I don't know. When you think Whit Merrifield, you think second base.
Yeah.
He's playing. I'm just saying where he played the majority last year.
At second.
But I have Ozzy. I know it's biased. He hits 300 every year, 280. He hits 20. 5'6", 5'7" dude that hits 20 tanks a year. Switch hitter, plays great defense. Gold Glover. So I got Ozzy second.
I got Whit at 2. Yeah.
I got DJ LeMahieu at 2.
I bet. I have Ozzy Albies at 3. I think he's an all-around great second baseman. He can do it all. He hits bombs. He hits 300, like Billy said. I think he had to be put in my top 3, and that's why he's 3 for me.
I got Ozzy at 3 too.
I really have a tie. I have between Jeff McNeil and Brandon Lowe. I like Brandon Lowe. You won't see somebody that hits better. Pat for power is second baseman. And then Jeff McNeil is a guy that never gets talked about. He hits over 300 every year. He hits everything. He doesn't strike out a lot. He plays great defense.
What?
No, just go.
What?
I have Ozzy at 3.
Is it because he plays third too?
Jose Altuve's not in any of your lists. It's a guy that won Silver Slugger, AL MVP 2 years ago.
I thought we were talking about right now.
Yeah, right now.
I think Jose matched it up with anyone.
He cheated though.
That's why we're not putting Jose on top 3.
If we're talking right now, you don't put Ozzy there. Ozzy's batting at 157 right now.
Yeah, exactly.
I know he bats 300, but right now
I really went my top 3 based on what they've done.
But I think Ozzy and Whit
Jose
and
Altuve,
DJ,
I think
they both play
he's
better.
not 1,
They play better.
but he's not in any of your top 3s.
They
And
play-
he wasn't in Billy's honorable mention.
They play better.
I'm not taking
defense.
Jeff McNeil over Jose Altuve.
When
I
I think top of the
Jeff
list,
McNeil
I just
every
don't
day
think
of the week.
Astros.
Stop.
I swear, Jeff McNeil does not strike out. Jeff McNeil.
This was the AL MVP.
2 years ago.
Who also got cheating.
Yeah.
So that's why we're not putting him on top 3 because he cheated. Okay, I get.
Bro, they have
I
the
understand
Astros next
that.
to the World
I
Series.
understand your argument, but Jose Altuve still is a really good second
You're talking about
baseman.
all those sluggers. That's all when they cheated.
And I know how they're playing right now, but it's hard to really.
I don't count that.
It's hard to get a list together right now because we're so early into the season, so
Yeah.
it's hard to go off stats.
Well, that's why I think I was basing mine more off years
I
prior.
was more basing mine off the
what
end.
we know they are.
I was basing mine more off the end of last year, beginning of this year, kind of that.
Yeah, I'd put DJ at 1.
I just don't like
Yeah, no,
cheaters.
definitely. I think DJ's clear cut
Yeah.
one to me.
I just don't like cheaters. Being in the same division as New England.
There's no
That's
way
why I
that-
hated Tom Brady for so long. Like every Super Bowl, they had something like cheating, like deflated balls, cameras. But Tom Brady kind of proved it going to Tampa. But I don't hate Tom Brady no more. But
It is early in the MLB season. That's our only topic this week for the MLB as we move on to the NBA. And has KD ever been the number 1 scoring option? I saw it in I think it was a TikTok earlier this week, or it was a YouTube video or something where he was arguing that it was a LeBron fan saying KD's never been the number 1 guy. He had Russell in OKC. D'Antoni didn't want him to be the number 1 guy. He wasn't Curry in Golden State. I think everywhere he's been, KD's been the number 1 guy. He's been the guy averaging the most points, taking the most shots. 2 Finals MVP speaks for himself in Golden State. He took over in the playoffs. In Oklahoma City, they go
They are not the number one seed in the West if we don't have Kevin Durant. I think in Brooklyn right now, when Kevin Durant's on the court, it's obviously a difference. I think when he's on the court, yes, Kyrie and then bring up the ball at the court, he's a point guard. But if KD's open, he has to get the basketball and he's going to get a bucket. I think he's number one option everywhere he goes.
I would just like to say, whoever you saw that TikTok from, don't know who you are, but you're a moron. I agree. KD's number one wherever he's been. He not only is taking the most shots, but when you go down to those last 5 seconds of the game, who are you letting shoot that ball? It's granted now when he's in Brooklyn. I mean, you got 3 guys that can all do that. But in Oklahoma City, KD's shooting that ball. In Golden State, yeah, you got Curry, but Curry or KD is shooting that shot. And now that he's in Brooklyn, I mean, even with those 3 guys, I still want KD taking that shot. That's your number one guy.
I give him definitely number one scorer when he's in Golden State. You can't deny that. He was taking over that team pretty much, really helped them. But
I think base question marks OKC.
OKC, yeah. That's where goes back to that Russ argument.
Because Russell did so much.
It goes back to that Russ argument where that's where I see Russ is not as much as a team guy. He's like, I want the ball. I want to go dunk on someone instead of, KD, I know he can fucking drain a 3 here. But that's where I didn't see him as a number one scorer in OKC. Everybody had Russ jerseys. Nobody had KD.
To me, in OKC, he won MVP while he was in OKC. But I don't know what their stats and stuff like that was, though. But I think everywhere he's went, he's been number one.
Yeah, I think Kevin Durant's proven that he's a superstar in the league. He's here for a long time. That's a really good segue into our last and final segment is star or superstar. And I think we're going to have some really good arguments here because I had a separation factor, and I think that winning basketball games makes you more of a superstar. And the first name on the list is Trae Young. And everyone's first instinct is, there's so many superstars. There's maybe 10, I think, in the league now that you can say are superstars. Guys that control a basketball team, make the franchise, and win basketball games every single year. To me, Trae Young's not there yet. He's a star. Yes, he's a little young, but I think he's had time to prove if he was a superstar. He can certainly get there, but right now he hasn't won enough games and hasn't made a team better enough for me to say he's a superstar. So I'm putting him as a star.
Yeah, I have him as a star too. He's just not. He's not there yet. He's playing great. Yeah, he
can take over a game, but he can't.
He's not.
To me,
the super factor.
Yeah.
To me, when I think of superstars are getting 14, 13 All-Star appearances. That's superstars. You already know who those are going to be.
Guys you think can get that also.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, but...
Because a lot of the guys on this list are young.
I don't think Trae Young will, though. He's a star, though.
I think he's on that cusp of... I really like Trae Young. I think he's averaging 25 points, 10 assists right now.
Really good point guard.
I mean, he has that playmaking ability along with that great shooting. I think he's right on that cusp of being a superstar. You can see the Hawks are starting to turn that corner. Be a good team in the East. Not a great team, just a good team. But I think he's right on that cusp. I think next year, if he can hit these same exact stats, I think he'll be regarded as a superstar.
I'm going to say, I looked at a lot of names on this list. A lot of these names are more of maybe if they're on a different team, you instantly put them as a superstar. But because the team they're on,
I think a lot of things you have to look into the future. That's where I'm going.
That's why I think Trae Young right now, you can't put him as a superstar. But say he was on a different team right now, just one extra star player, I think you put Trae Young as a superstar.
No, I think that's a good segue into Zach Levine. That's the next name. I think it's the same situation. He's changing the franchise. He's winning basketball games. He's putting up numbers, but he's just hasn't done it enough to where he's a superstar. He's not that guy sometimes on the fourth that comes up big for your team. He's proven he can do that. As a Bulls fan, I've seen him do that numerous times, but he also takes bad shots. He's still that young guy that yells at his coach, then Billy Donovan, and gets mad and storms off the court. He's just not there yet. I think the same position as Trae Young.
Yeah, I think, like I said, right on that cusp. And it's crazy because the first 2 names on this list, I think my favorite 2 NBA games the past 2 years have been when the Bulls and Hawks play, because both of the top guys, that's when they look like superstars. Both times I think Trae Young's had 40 if not more.
They both had 50 in the last game.
And I think that game, not this year, but last year, where they both went in the overtime, I think both went over, like, close. They're not over to 50
Yeah.
right there at that. So, I mean, I love Zach. I think give that team another year. Just really figure out where you want to go with this team. You made the big acquisition, and I think it does nothing but help Zach if you just build around him, build players that make him better.
I can see Zach as a superstar, just not right now. Bulls are definitely literally one piece away from being a championship
Point
contender.
guard.
I got him as a star.
What were you saying?
Huh? I mean, y'all basically said.
That's good. I think my next two, I'm going to forewarn, they're both for me superstars. D-Mitch, I've been big on since Louisville. I think he has that factor. He can take over a basketball game. He's averaging, I think it's like 28 and 7. He's a shooting guard turned point guard. He's proven he can win big games. He can get to the playoffs. That's why I said my conversation and my debate changes. If you're winning basketball games, it's different. I think you deserve to be called a superstar. Donovan Mitchell is single-handedly winning basketball games sometimes. Yes, the Jazz are set up to win, but I think the main factor is Donovan Mitchell.
Yeah, you go back to the bubble last year. D-Mitch, when they played the Nuggets in that series.
Dude, single-handedly scored 62 to put him in games.
Took over that series. He just literally took over. Yeah, that's where I think having the extra superstar like Trae Young or Zach Levine, having that extra superstar.
But if you're doing it by yourself.
Yeah, Zach Levine and Trae Young, they don't have that extra star to make him a superstar. Donovan Mitchell, he's got Rudy Gobert down there in the paint, who's just one of the top centers in the league. You can't deny that. He helps them. But D-Mitch just takes over games. You have to put him in the superstar.
He has that factor.
Yeah, if you would ask me this question at the start of the year, I would have had him right there with Zach Levine, Trae Young. But the way to see he's not only gotten better, but grown as a team leader,
mature.
The way he's matured, I think
Coachable.
it would just, yeah, exactly. I think it would just be rude not to have him as a superstar right now. He's just played so well.
Like Billy said, I think at the beginning of this year, I'd put him as a star, but right now, he'd be a superstar.
Yeah, I think Mitch a little biased. I've always been in love with D-Mitch. I have a Jazz jersey for D-Mitch. I think he's just a guy I want to see win a lot, and he's proven instantly coming into the league that he's made for the long run. The next one, I think, was made to be called what he is. He's a superstar. I think Luka Doncic is made to be a face of basketball, a guy from overseas that everyone knew about before he came. No one knew what he was going to be, if he was going to be a bust or not. He instantly comes in and wins basketball games for Dallas. He's the face of the franchise, even with Porzingis there. Luka's a guy like LeBron. He's young. He's athletic. He was Zion before Zion came. He was supposed to be the guy to take over LeBron's spot when he left. And I think Luka's right on that track to be that if he can get to the playoffs and win some more games. But I think he's just set to be a superstar.
Oh, without a doubt. I think that's that's the definition of a superstar. A guy that makes your team better with the stats. And I think that Luka is within the next, must be a little soon, but I think within the next 2 years, that's somebody that will have an MVP on their record. And
He's jumped in the MVP race. He's at third right now.
I think he should have been all year. I mean, he's almost averaged a triple-double all year. It's just I think it's the Mavericks record that really.
I think if the Mavs need to get them some weapons, like I know they have Porzingis, but like they need some like forwards or something.
Porzingis isn't
make
next Porzingis anymore.
Oh yeah, no.
He's hurt
They need to make
all the time.
to make a deep run. They need to get somebody else.
I had to go back to this, but you still taking Russ over Luka, bro?
Yes.
He's back in the MVP race. You're still taking Russ?
Yes. I think
Luka's
have you
a
seen Russ
superstar.
lately? They're both on huge hot streaks right now.